Hi, and welcome to this video on negative numbers, maths made easy. Now, a negative number can be thought of as subtracting a large number from a smaller number. For example, if we have a 2 and we subtract from that a larger number, say 4, we end up with minus 2. By convention, if there's no negative sign on the number, we take that as being positive. The relationship is often expressed in the form of a number line, but what I'm going to do is use a vertical number line to represent, say, the readings on a thermometer which has a positive and negative scale. So on a thermometer we have a 0, and then up top we have the positive end of the scale, and at the bottom we have the negative end of the scale. This is hot, positive is hot, and this is cold, negative is cold. On this part of the scale the numbers get greater, so 7 would be greater than 5. Going down the scale the numbers get smaller, so negative 7 would be smaller than negative 5. Now let's have a look. If we imagine that this thermometer is in a container, and the container contains lots of little energy cubes which we're taking the temperature of. So enlarged, these energy cubes look like this. So we're just imagining this for now. So we have a positive energy cube, a negative energy cube, a positive energy cube, and say we have another one here. There's another negative energy cube. So what happens when we add a positive energy cube? We go up the scale, it gets hotter, so the positive ones are hot, and when we're at 0 and we add a negative energy cube, we go down the scale, more negative, and it becomes colder. So let's have a look what happens when, well, let's go along the scale again. So if we have a positive and we add a positive, it gets more positive. So a positive plus a positive remains a positive. If we have a negative and we add a negative, it goes down the scale. So a negative plus a negative remains a negative. Now what happens if we're at negative and we take out from the mixture a negative? So obviously if we're taking out something that's making the temperature colder, we're making it hotter. So a negative take away or minus a negative goes up the scale. So that means it's getting hotter. So it's like when we minus a negative energy cube, it's like we're adding a positive. Okay, let's take that a little further, just bear that in mind. So we're talking about the signs now. So if we have a positive number and we add to that another positive number, we end up with a positive number. Say 3 plus 2 equals 5. Usually the number in magnitude is bigger than the individual two numbers. If we have something with a negative sign and we add that to a number with a negative sign, we end up with a negative. So We just discussed that before. And usually the negative is larger in magnitude than both these individual negatives. So say that was a negative 3 and a negative 2, we'd end up with a negative 5. Now let's look at a different combination where we're adding a positive to a negative. In this case, the sign depends on the magnitude of the numbers. So if the plus number is greater in magnitude, we end up with a plus. If the negative is greater in magnitude, the number attached to the negative, we end up with a negative answer. So let's have a look at that. So here we have a 6, which is greater than negative 3. We're going to end up with an answer which is positive. Again, let's have a look. Positive plus negative. If we have a small positive number, say positive 3, and we add that to a larger negative number, the number is going to be negative. So in this case it's going to be plus 3, and in this case it's going to be minus 3. Now let's have a look at subtraction. In the case of subtraction, if we have 4 minus 7, as we discussed in this case, this is a smaller number, take away a larger number, we end up with a negative number. Negative 3 in this case. This can also be thought of as 4 plus minus 7. So that also equals negative 3. Similarly, if we have minus 2 minus 3 equals negative 5. This can be thought of as negative 2 plus negative 3, and that equals negative 5. Now the most important part of subtraction is where we have a negative minus a negative. So in this case, say we have, put a little star to indicate this is important, you have to remember this. If we have 2 minus minus 5. So remember when we were on this scale, we had a 2, and we're there on the scale, and we take away from the mixture some negative energy cubes. So the mixture is going to get hotter. It's going to go up the scale. So that's like adding. So we convert the minuses into plus, and the answer we get is 7. So the rule that we use, let's put it in a little bubble, is whenever we get a minus a minus, it equals a plus. Now let's look at multiplication. Multiplication, say we have 2 times 3. So this is 2 plus 2 plus 2, and that equals 6. If we have minus 3 times 2, so minus 3 times 2 is minus 3, plus minus 3 equals minus 6. So a positive number multiplied by a positive number gives you a positive number. A negative number multiplied by a positive number gives you a negative number. Now what happens when we get, let's put a little star by this because this is an important one you have to remember. If we have a negative number multiplied by a negative number. Now let's look at what we were doing in these cases. 2 times 3, we were going 2, add 2, add 2 to give you 6. Minus 3 times 2, we were going minus 3, add another minus 3, minus 6. So what would happen if we had a minus 2 times a minus 3? Well, in this case, we're taking away negative q's. Like in the addition case, we're going up the scale. So this is like going minus 2, we take away minus 2, we take away minus 2. So we end up with plus 6. So a minus times a minus equals a plus. In the case of division, it's similar again. When we divide positive numbers, we end up with a positive number. So a positive divided by a positive equals a positive number. A minus divided by minus number gives you a plus number. Sorry. Minus divided by a minus is a plus, as in the case of multiplication. And a minus divided by a plus gives you a minus.